The road to Indianapolis started tonight. Purdue basketball is officially underway. Purdue wins 82-51. This is Boilers in the Stands, and we'll be talking about it all starting right now. All right, we're back here on Boilers in the Stands. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr. Alongside me, as always, is Joe Jackson. Kraig Bowers will hopefully be joining us here in a little bit. He is underneath the belly of Mackey Arena talking with the players in the press conference, and of course, Matt Painter as well will be speaking to the media. So hopefully Kraig can jump on later and give updates of what we heard after Purdue moves to 1-0 on the regular season as we have officially got it into real action. College basketball underway yesterday, and now Purdue takes their turn tonight and gets a big win, 82-51. As Fletcher Loyer gets his first ever 30-point game of his career, ties his career high of 7 3-pointers. Braden Smith adds in 11 points. Daniel Jacobson, Jack Benner, whole lot of different contributors to tonight's big win as Purdue tries to find themselves. Kaufman-Renn was out tonight with a hip injury, so that opened up some different rotations that we may or may not see here later in the year. But Joe, I'll start you off. Give me your takeaways here from the start of this journey as Purdue tries to fight their way to Indy in March.
Yeah, obviously Fletch is pretty good at shooting the basketball, I would say. I in all seriousness, I do hope that one day he fully gets the respect he deserves as a shooter. I feel like he still gets overlooked somehow in terms of his not only his shooting ability, but also his just pure scoring capabilities. Obviously, he goes 7 of 10 from 3 today. It was 1 of 1 from 2, so it was just a lot of pure shooting. But he deserves his flowers for what he has done throughout his career from shooting from 3-point line. And this might just be the best season yet for him in that capacity. The transition threes were lethal from not only him, Benner. I think Murphy and his only one might have been a transition three. Purdue, right, they're going to have a handful of games that the shooting is what it was versus Kentucky. Those are going to be very rare, though, right? There's going to be only a few that happen all season. They'll have to figure out how to win those games, but a lot of their games are going to be closer to this, where it's just, yeah, Purdue's going to be one of the best shooting teams in the entire country. Got it up on pretty good volume. Almost 50% of their shots came from 3 today. Jack Benner, he stood out big time. We're going to definitely dive into him and kind of what he was able to do, not only offensively, but some of the stuff that popped defensively. And I think defensively, obviously, Evansville is a team that has struggled offensively in the past and the lower level of competition compared to what Purdue will face in the Big Ten. But I thought even compared to when they played UIndy in the exhibition, I thought the team defense felt a bit better. It felt a little bit sharper. It felt like it's slowly but steadily getting into better form. And they have one more bye game before getting a real test with Alabama. So there's still some things from an individual defensive perspective that's going to limit Purdue, but I felt like the team defense is starting to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a stretch there. It was 22-17 at one point, and then all of a sudden it felt like Purdue went on a 30-0 run at the end of the first half and to start the second half. And a lot of, threes made during that stretch that helped, kind of extend the lead offensively, but it really, that stretch was dominated by some really impressive perimeter defense as the Purdue guards really started to lock up Evansville's guards there. So I definitely want to hear your perspective on how that all shook out. But for me, my biggest takeaway in this game was somebody I was anticipating was going to break out, and that was Jack Benner. Now, I didn't know he was going to get a start tonight, and that happens because Kaufman-Renn, wasn't able to play tonight. He had a hip injury, and Painter said afterwards or said during the broadcast that I guess it happened during practice. But regardless, Jack Benner, you could see it in the exhibition games. You could see it in the open scrimmage to the fans on Fan Day. This kid can play. He is a lightning rod from the outside, and he is somebody that can certainly get on a heater with knocking down the three ball, but he's got the size is what really stands out to me. He's kind of like a guard forward hybrid who can handle himself on the perimeter with some guys, but also has enough body and enough girth to get inside and be a part of the rebounding. He even had a block that was pretty impressive in the first half as well. And so you even saw him scramble for a loose ball and then find Fletcher Loyer on the other side of the court. Jack Benner, to me, while all the talk has rightfully so been about Jakari Harris here before the season started and what he can bring, I think now everybody's got their antennas up after tonight about what Jack Benner can do for this team. And for me, that's exciting. That shooting will translate any day of the week. And the thing for me, depending on how he finds himself in certain rotations, he's a lot of times going to be your fourth or fifth option offensively, which means for a defense that has to really focus in on Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, Oscar Cluff, Daniel Jacobson, guys that demand some gravity their way, then you're going to find open looks for Jack Benner quite a bit, Joe. And that for me really excites me for his freshman year as he redshirted last year. This guy's going to have a special career here in Purdue.
Yeah, and I don't think this game should not be the standard per se for Benner for every single game. But at the same time, it's similar to CJ and Jakari last year, where it's like, oh yeah, you don't expect that every game, but it's also like he can get on a heater in any given game. Also contributed pretty well on the boards, moved the ball well, I thought offensively, like defensively has a case. He was Purdue's probably best defender, not named CJ or Jakari, in my opinion, today. So I know we'll talk more probably in depth in a bit, but yeah, really, really impressed with what he showed. And yes, obviously, he has to do it against Big Ten competition, all of that, but you play who's in front of you. And Jack Benner, who I looked it up, was ranked 308th in his recruiting class, gets the start and pours in 11 points on some confident shooting. Really good to see. And right when TKR comes back, Benner's probably the 9th man in the rotation. That's a really good 9th man to have in your rotation.
Yeah. And then I think the other big takeaway, just as we monitor how they're going to navigate figuring out these bigs, and with Trey Kaufman-Renn out tonight, I thought this was an interesting opportunity for Oscar Cluff and Daniel Jacobson to get a little more comfortable because, let's face it, when Trey Kaufman-Renn's out there, he's going to dominate the basketball for quite a few possessions. So these are two guys. I mean, it did feel like in the exhibition games, like there is, I think, after getting Oscar Cluff over here as their a big time recruit, and a senior transfer, I did feel like he's somewhat trying to not step on TKR's toes in a lot of ways. Like I'm sure he's more used to being the focal point of an offense. So I thought this was an opportunity for him and Daniel Jacobson to get comfortable. And as we saw, at least in my opinion, throughout the game, there still is a lot of room for growth for them trying to figure out what they want to do out there, especially when you talk about the high pick and roll with Braden Smith. They're both still not entirely sure how they're going to receive the ball. Braden, I thought, probably could have had 3 or 4 more assists if those guys were a little more in sync with him. I don't expect that to happen overnight, but I just think what we saw tonight shows that there's still a lot more room there for growth and development in terms of chemistry with the bigs and Braden Smith, not named TKR.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something that stood out to me he ends with 11 assists, I believe, in this game. Probably could have realistically had like 15. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that he could have gotten that many. Only 1 turnover. I do like that he kept going to it with Braden, especially Jacobson, just kind of kept going at it. Where right at this, especially in the second half, this game was kind of out of reach, and Braden used that opportunity to keep working, keep giving reps to Jacobson, keep giving reps to Cluff on different types of roles, and those are the things that can add up over time. Where right, if there's Braden is such a good passer that if he had wanted to, after the first I think the first one to Jacobson where he just kind of missed the dunk. Like, he's a good enough passer. He could have just found other people if he wanted to, but it was very deliberate and intentional for him to be like, nope, we're going to keep getting him reps. We're going to keep getting him looks. So that way, by the time game 10 and 15 and 20 rolls around, we already have all of this kind of in our back pocket that we can rely on. So, and I think the same applies to Cluff as well. Jacobson's was probably just a little bit more noticeable because of, in general, more lobs, and Jacobson's also just 7'4".
Yeah, absolutely. And as we said, Braden Smith probably could have. He ended with 11 assists, Braden Smith, in 30 minutes of action, but easily could have had 15. As now, I think the game to game thing fans will certainly be looking at is Braden Smith climbing up the assists rankings all time in college basketball history. And tonight, he passed over to become the third all-time leading assist man in Big Ten history, and so that's it. That's pretty damn impressive. And I think he's the only two left to topple are Cassius Winston and Mateen Cleaves, who had some pretty remarkable careers for Michigan State. So that's kind of the overall kind of synopsis of the game. Purdue will come back here on Friday, and maybe TKR will hopefully return at that point. They got a big game in a week against Alabama, so you hope Trey Kaufman-Renn can be out there just so they can try to work some things out, because Trey was still trying to get comfortable as well. So that's the one disappointment of him not being able to play tonight, is them trying to get into a rhythm. But that being said, I did think tonight was a healthy opportunity for Jacobson and Cluff to kind of really sink their feet into what they're trying to do on both ends of the court under Matt Painter and this Purdue basketball program. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, so I don't know where else if you have anything else in terms of, early reactions or overall reactions, or where do you want to take this next, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think no more big kind of overarching themes for me in this one. We can kind of jump into a little bit of the stats before
Okay.
getting into maybe some more of the player breakdowns, where we'll hit on some of the more overarching topics again. Do you want to read stats or me?
Yeah, no, you got it.
Oh man, that is because when I'm here,
You
I only have
can't
the one
read it.
screen.
I'll read
I
it.
know. No, I got it. I
You,
got to pull it up
okay.
now.
All right. All right.
Purdue wins 82-51. They shoot 44.8% from three, 13 of 29. Evansville goes 7 of 34 for 20.6%. I think the big stat that everybody's going to be drawn to, because it was quite noticeable, Evansville ends with 20 offensive rebounds, Purdue only 12. They both end with 40 rebounds total on the game. That's obviously going to be a major talking point. We'll hit on that in a sec. 14 fast break points for Purdue. That is something that definitely stands out. Also 26 bench points, got production kind of all around. So only 7 turnovers for Purdue compared to 10 for Evansville. I think those are kind of the things that really stand out to me. I don't know if there's, from a team's perspective, anything that stands out to you, Braggs.
Well, I mean, the 22 assists on 28 made field goals certainly is there. I mean, I think the other thing people are going to look at too is, the rebounding margin. It ends up being a tie at 40-40, but offensive rebounds for Evansville 20. And so, this is Evansville. We're not even in Big Ten play yet. So, those are, I think, the things that Purdue fans are going to be concerned with. When I watch, Daniel Jacobson, even if he put some weight on this year, is certainly a guy that can be pushed around. And Oscar Cluff, I don't know how you feel about this in terms of rebounding, but he's not a guy that's going to get very much air when he jumps. And so there was a few times tonight I thought the way he timed his jumps on the rebounds, he didn't give himself that great of an opportunity to corral it in. Now, he started to find his bearing at a certain point in this game. But, watching those guys and how they're going to rebound the basketball, to have Evansville get that many offensive rebounds and tie Purdue on the glass, at some point they got to figure out how they're going to get this short up before they get into some of the tougher teams they're going to play on their schedule.
Yeah, and I think we can just hit on all of that now, because that is like the biggest negative from this game is Purdue got worked on the glass, simply. I agree with you. Like, it felt like, so Evansville got 20 offensive rebounds without fully knowing off like the stats and that, I would bet 15 or 10 to 15 of them. It felt like Purdue did the hard part of like they were in position, they were boxing out, he just didn't go get the ball. And so I don't know if it's more of a they're just really making sure they go hit their guy and they're kind of expecting Cluff and Jacobson to clean everything up. And like if that's the case, you got to be able to obviously hit a body, but you do got to go get the ball as well. I Cluff and Jacobson both just in Cluff it's surprising, but Jacobson makes a little more sense. Like just stronger hands, timing jumps better. In I think Cluff especially I think has it. Like when we watched him at the Fan Day exhibition, that was one of the things that stood out to me. It was like, oh man, I thought his timing on his rebounds was elite. So I think it'll come out eventually, but it just felt like Purdue put themselves in the spots and just didn't fully execute on actually grabbing the rebound, and that is generally the most important part for grabbing a board.
To me, I think that's I can maybe speak to nervousness. I'm not trying to make an excuse for it, but just watching the way, to your point, they were in position for a large majority of these rebounds. Even at one point in the second half, Cluff had it and it just like pops out of his hands and goes out of bounds. So it's still Purdue's ball, but he didn't get the rebound because he couldn't bring it in. And so I do think, it's your first game at Mackey, right? For Cluff, it's your first time for Jacobson, getting your opportunity finally after coming back from an injury last year. And so I think that I do think that there is some credence to nervousness here early on. And that, again, for TKR not to be out here, like let's flush this stuff out of their system, because by the halfway point of the year, I think we'll see, their full form of who they really are. You've seen it now twice with Oscar Cluff, where, in the last exhibition game and then in this game, early on, it's like kind of feels a little off. And then all of a sudden he just kind of gets into mode. So, and we're all trying to figure out who he is, but he's been a player in college basketball. He's already established himself. He's a senior. And so for him, I just think it's about him getting comfortable more than anything.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think it'll just come with time. I do think Cluff, I like that it looked like he was thinking less. He was just playing and he should come down with more rebounds. I know he still had 10 on the game. I think it's getting there, and I think it's just going to take a little bit more time where you could look at what he did against UIndy compared to Kentucky. It was like, oh, he's that second half, he's starting to think a little less and just playing. And then this game, it seemed like very much a point of emphasis of like, go attack, go get the ball. He was very good on the offensive glass. So I think the rebounding woes could even simply be like a one-off where Purdue just had a terrible rebounding game. I think it's very fixable stuff, right? It's not like they're just not boxing out or anything like that. Like they're doing the hard things. It's just got to at some point finish the play. And I think that's the easier part to probably learn, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but you saw Liam Murphy and Jack Benner getting down there and getting rebounds. I think we all know Jakari Harris is capable of getting physical and getting on the glass as well. Braden will even find his way to a healthy amount of rebounds per game. He's always finding his angles. Stephen Tater Swingle here in the chat kind of agrees. He says Purdue needs to get stronger hands. Seemed they'd get their hands on the rebound, and as soon as they grabbed it, the ball was getting knocked out. We saw a little bit of this with Caleb First, right? It's I think a little similar in that regard. So I guess flipping it to the other side when we went over some of the stats of the game, to me, what also stood out on the offensive side was the 22 assists on 28 made baskets. You talked about the fast break points, just overall the way they share the basketball. I mean, this early on, a lot of guys that haven't really played with each other all that much and certainly have never had these kind of rotations in a real game. It was really healthy to see, all these guys out there. At one point you had, Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith and Omer Meyer, all out on the court at the same time and sharing the ball, and that led to Fletcher Loyer having the night he had, right? There was a couple times where the hockey assists or that extra pass where a good shot for a better shot opened up some things. So it was really encouraging to see the way they shared the basketball. Omer Meyer in the first half had a fast break where the numbers weren't in his favor, does a little Euro step, kick to the corner, and then you see the knockdown three, I believe, from Liam Murphy. You saw at one point Braden Smith get deep down underneath the hoop, and he knew that he didn't really have the right angle on the bigs that were with him, waited for a trailing Jack Benner, I believe, kicked it back for the three. So that kind of patience and vision and understanding where guys are coming as a trailer, I really enjoyed the way they shared the basketball tonight.
Yeah, definitely. It felt a lot more cohesive as a unit this game compared to either of the two games before. When you can get out in transition and get easy looks like they did, that obviously helps. Where it's just simply catch and shoot. I think Purdue, like Loyer's, maybe the best transition 3-point shooter in the country. I know he has a case for just being the best shooter straight up in the country. But his numbers in transition are just they've been elite, and we saw that again today. Benner fits that category. Murphy, whenever he's in, fits that category. I know CJ and Jakari didn't really shoot much or shoot many threes. They CJ didn't even take a shot. Jakari was 1 for 3 from 3, but we know both of them can also hit in transition as well. So, right, in an offensive system for Purdue where they are just going to be the best offense in the country by a good margin, it's crazy that they also can just find these easy buckets in transition, have shooters everywhere, and that's why in a game where you have your leading scorer out and one of the best scorers in the country, the offense didn't even look like it missed a beat for the most part.
Right. I mean, at the end of the game, when they're kind of you getting not when the walk-on guys come on, but right before that, when you're at the 4-minute mark and the lineup they had out there, that could be, in a different universe, that could have been Purdue's starting lineup for the season, right? I mean, and a team that could be competitive, at some point in the Big Ten,
Yeah.
So that's the B team out there. This is a very deep team. And so when guys are out, there will be a next man up mentality with this ball club because they've got a lot of different options at their disposal. So, take this for wherever you want to go next, Joe. I think it looks like Kraig is about to join the conversation here.
Maybe he might be uploading thing. I don't know.
Maybe
we can take a quick look at the rotation here.
Sweet.
For anybody that is new to the program, appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe, and even if you are a returner, you should also like and subscribe because it helps us out a lot. Rotation chart here. Color box means that player played that minute. Positions are a little vague. If you want to say Lawyer's a 2 and somebody else is 3, I'm not going to argue with you. I don't think anything major stands out today, especially the last 12 minutes of the second half can kind of be tossed out in terms of rotation, but this feels like a pretty set 9 to 10 man type of rotation. I think the one thing that was different for this game compared to last games was Meyer comes in for Loyer at about the 12-13 minute mark instead of Braden. I kind of like that of letting Meyer get a little bit of run first before becoming the primary points. In both the exhibitions, I believe Meyer checked in around the 12-minute mark for Braden. This time it kind of gets flipped where Braden stays in, Fletch goes out, and can kind of just get Meyer loose that way before he has to take over point guard responsibilities. Obviously, rotation in itself is going to look a lot different when TKR does return, but I would say this feels, for the time being, if you basically put Jack Benner into Liam Murphy's spot and TKR into Jack Benner's spot, it feels pretty reasonable for kind of expectations, at least moving in the near future. Oh, Braggs is muted. First time all season.
Oh, Jesus. Well, you didn't have to call it out. We had a graphic up.
Yeah, my bad.
No, that's true. That's true. It's fine. It's that's in the jar for when one day we finally go eat at St. Elmo's, which it should be this year when we get to the Final Four in Indianapolis. And I think I've paid for 2 meals at this point. But when you look at the minutes chart, it's really hard to take too much away from it tonight with TKR not out there. There's nothing we can there's nothing that's too revealing with it. But Antoine West not getting any minutes tonight. They haven't announced whether or not he's going to redshirt for the year. I don't know, Joe, through your conversations being at Mackey tonight, did you get any kind of indications on what they're going to do there or how this is going to go? I know it's gone a few different ways the last few years with different redshirt options.
Yeah, and Kraig, who was in presser, kind of let us know, just messaged us, said basically that West hasn't decided at this point. Basically, where he's at is West is a super competitive guy. Painter said to wait a couple of weeks before he fully decides. I would assume that means, right, for the time being, he probably won't play. This is probably, I would, if obviously we don't know what anybody's thinking actually, but if I was to guess, it's probably a little bit of like, yeah, the minutes might not be there and it would be best for him to redshirt, but Purdue is a team with national championship aspirations. Like it does become hard to tell a guy like, hey, no, you sit out this year, and don't, obviously he's still a part of the team, but you're not going to play meaningful minutes, even though we know you potentially could. So I do get it from that perspective. Like it's hard to tell a kid to be like, no, like we're going to try to go win a national championship, but you're not going to play any minutes a part of it. So if I was to guess, I think he still probably ends up doing it, but I don't think you can fully blame him if he does end up deciding to burn it, even if it is back end rotation stuff.
Yeah, it's a fair point, right? I mean, normally the redshirt decision is pretty easy,
Yeah.
just because of the minutes and how can you get the most out of your career. But to your point, you don't know how a season's going to go, whether it's injuries or otherwise, or you earn your way into minutes little by little. We've seen that over the last few years, whether it was Brandon Newman a few years ago who had trouble kind of breaking through and getting substantial minutes that he wanted. Well, by the time it got to March Madness, he was getting those because he was kind of became, a spark for the team. And same could be said last year for Miles Colvin, who, is always somebody that I think strive for more and more minutes. But by the end of the year, all of a sudden he was getting, I think, more of a healthier role that he wanted. So, if Antoine West decides to not take the red shirt, you can't really rule him out as a guy at the very end of the year who finds his way into meaningful minutes. Not a lot of minutes, but at least somewhat of a role. And when you're talking about a team that, could get all the way to a national championship and you have an opportunity to put your name on that kind of a stage without the guarantee of how this is going to go over the next 3 years, 4 years, if you're Antoine West, that's certainly a big decision. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. So, it's certainly a decision there to be had.
Yep, 100%. So I mean, we can, I think, get into some of the player breakdowns. We'll throw up the player stats as we kind of start talking about them as well. I think we got to start with the guy Fletcher Loyer, 30 points on 11 shots, 8 of 11 from the field, 7 of 10 from 3, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, 1 assist, 1 turnover. Buckets, just pure buckets today, showcasing why he's one of the best shooters in the country. He's one of the best movement shooters in the country. He's one of the best transition shooters in the country. He's one of the best spot up shooters. Like whatever you want Fletch to do shooting the basketball, he's going to be able to get it done. He loves shooting at Mackey Arena. I think, Braggs, I looked it up after the show for the last exhibition, and it was like he shot like 54% from 3 at Mackey Arena last season.
Yep.
He's off to a very hot start this year as well. I'll throw it to you on Fletch, and then I'll kind of come back because I do have one thing I want to call out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing that we saw with Fletcher Loyer was, Matt Painter said before the season, his only advice to Fletcher was that he needed to shoot more. Yeah, when you have those open opportunities, or even if they're not wide open, the perfect shot, he's such a knockdown shooter, especially at Mackey. Take him. And you saw a few times where he was coming around a curl where the defensive trailer is right on his hip, and yet he still put it up. And what did it turn into? It turned into free throws as he's getting knocked down. He might have even had another one where his hands got knocked as he knocked down a free throw. So, that is, the kind of mentality I hope Fletcher can stick with all year. That's That's who he is. That's what they need on this team is guys that are fearless to put shots up as you try to, figure out, Omer Meyer obviously has a lot of ability, but it's going to take time for him to figure out, how he wants to play the game at this level. And you got some different guys like CJ Cox and Jakari Harris. They weren't able to find their shot or, their role into the offense here tonight. And so when that's the case, Fletcher Loyer, you're the senior, man. Take over. And he did that tonight. 30 points, 7 threes, and just had a fantastic first night for Fletcher and Braden. So a great one to start this season as we look at this road to March Madness.
Yeah, 100%. So I threw it to you because I needed to pull.
I got you. And
ready.
Nobody can ramble more than I can. So I got your back.
You're good at it.
The board.
Okay, sorry for lighting's a little poor, but we'll figure it out.
Well, you're not in complete darkness like the other night.
Yeah. Maybe it might happen in like 20 minutes. Who knows? But just one thing I wanted to call out with Loyer, and I think it's more deliberate this year than last year, is like using him while a pick and roll is happening, or using him in actions, knowing that defenses are just going to gravitate to Braden Smith, to TKR when he's in the game. And so something I think they probably 2 to 3 times, and I think he got fouled a couple, is so if Braden has the ball up here, right, Cluff, Jacobson, whoever is looking like they're going to come set a screen here, instead of actually setting it, they just kind of slip it. Braden goes this way, and instead of actually setting it, they slip, and now they're setting this kind of wide pin down wide screen for Loyer, who's now coming off here. So now, right, as Braden's coming off this, he's here. Now you have Loyer coming off this type of screen, this wide action, and now he's here. And that's where, right, if you have the defender here, he's going to be kind of trailing, and that's where you get the fouls, or Lawyer's just going to be able to get the looks. There's also even just as simple as, right, high pick and roll. There we go. I don't have a good angle for my drawing, so sorry if it's poor. Where you just have this coming down, and then you have Loyer here, and you just have somebody just setting a simple pin down. So as the screen's happening, as the roll's happening, these defenders are going to dig in here, and now you just have Loyer coming up this way. So just really have enjoyed kind of how they've used Loyer off ball while the pick and rolls are happening. Obviously, Purdue's going to be a heavy pick and roll team, and Braden Smith's elite at it. But now they're able to get that get looks for Loyer specifically, and so in games even where, right, it felt like last year at times Loyer could just kind of be phased out of the offense, and some of it is how teams defend him. It feels like that's going to happen much less this season, which is with some of the actions that they're specifically running for him.
Yeah, no question. Big night for Fletcher Loyer. A great start. And, we do have some breaking news here in the chat, and that is that it is your birthday, Joe.
It is indeed.
And TD Ransford brings in a $2 super chat saying happy birthday to Joe. Your better half Sydney is over here saying hard to keep you away from Mackie, as people are thanking her for sharing Joe with us here and all your insights. So working on your birthday. Hey, sorry I wasn't able to make it to Mackie to sing to you in the media room.
It's okay. Maybe next year. Also, Jason Depew, want to shout him out. He also threw in a $1.99 super chat saying happy birthday. Do appreciate it from everybody. I mean, you can call this work if that's what you want to call it on my birthday, but not a bad place to be inside Mackey Arena watching Purdue basketball. So appreciate everybody tuning in and saying happy birthday and all that.
Well, that was nice of Fletcher Loyer to drop 30 for you on your birthday. So
it was for me.
Good stuff. And yeah, that was good stuff. So really nice of him. So, all right, where do you want to take this next?
I think there's probably a little bit more to talk about with Benner and kind of what he was able to do. Oh, I didn't even notice. He just snuck up on me. Benner ends the day with 11 points on 4-7 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3, adds in 6 boards, 2 of them being offensive, 2 assists, and a pretty highlight type block in transition. We talked about the shooting, right? And so I won't harp on that too much more. We can hit on that in a sec. But really one thing that stood out was his timing with defensive rotations and kind of where he needed to be. There's just naturally going to be some limitations to what he can do purely one-on-one, especially as he's playing the 4 and is going up. Evansville had generally 6'8", 6'9" type guys at the 4 spot. But I thought when involved in pick and roll defensively, I thought he did a good job of mixing in like, hey, I'm going to quickly hedge and just get back immediately. So that way Evansville can't have any advantage. Or, all right, I recognize that whoever's guarding the ball is just a step two behind. Let me just switch this. We'll rotate from there and figure it out. I just thought, in addition to obviously the shooting and the aggressiveness on the glass, just some of those little things really stood out that can help make up for maybe some of the physical limitations he'll have going up against opposing force.
And Kraig, I guess, just left us for no reason.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, that's all right. You leave us on purpose? Did I do that to you? He's trying to figure things out.
I had my bad camera on.
I see.
Had to put my good camera on so everybody can see me in HD.
Okay. Well, Kraig Bowers here joins the program here on Boilers in the Stands. Make sure you hit the like button while you're hanging out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Kraig was down talking with the players that they picked to speak to the media, and Matt Painter as well. We're getting into some of the player breakdowns. We obviously started with Fletcher Loyer, and we're getting into a little bit of Jack Benner conversation. For me, he was my biggest takeaway of this game. I really like what I saw from him in the exhibitions and the scrimmage that we saw. I think he's just somebody, for me as a fan, like, hey, man, this guy could be a weapon, kind of somebody that nobody really saw coming. So, but before we get back to some of the player breakdowns, why don't you tell us what you learned from the press conferences and give your takeaways from the game, and then we'll get back into some of the breakdowns.
All right. Did you guys already read what I put in the private chat?
We did read about
Antoine
West, but we didn't get the update on TKR yet. So take it away.
Okay. Yeah, just all they really said about TKR was he had some type of a hit pointer at the end of practice yesterday. A full practice yesterday, came in for shoot around and warm-ups today, and it was feeling sore, and they just made the decision not to play him. Doesn't sound like a real big thing. In terms of going forward, it sounded like they were just going to kind of monitor it and see where it goes. So for anybody who was really worried about losing our All-American post player, I don't think you need to have any concerns about that in any way, shape, or form.
All right. And what were some of your takeaways from the game here tonight? As we're, getting back to some of the individual breakdowns, but give us the 30,000-foot view.
I mean, I think there's certainly positives that you have to look at, primarily the shooting, though, right? Purdue shot lights out from 3, and that starts with Fletcher Loyer, but continues with Jack Benner and several other guys on the team as well. And we know this team's going to be a good shooting team, and the Kentucky exhibition game was a blip where they just missed open shots. So we've seen 2 games in a row between the last exhibition game and this one that kind of shows what this team can do from a shooting standpoint, and it doesn't have to be the starters. There's lots of role guys. There's going to be guys that probably aren't in the rotation late in the season that can still come in and shoot lights out. I think giving up the amount of offensive rebounds this team did kind of highlights a concern. I don't know how much of a concern that is, or if it's just a matter of you didn't have your starting 4-man. But I think they're still where the Painter said something in the press conference about it being a highlight that they could give up as many offensive rebounds as they did, but still be even in rebounding at the end of the game. And like, he has that dry sarcasm sometime, and I couldn't tell if he was poking fun about like kind of giving a shot for how many offensive rebounds they gave up, or whether he was being serious. I'm not sure. But from a concern standpoint, I guess that's where I'm at. You guys already talked about Jack Benner, but everybody's going to take away the shooting and the fact that he can launch from so deep. But for me, it's everything else that he does. And I think Joe and I talked, at the end of summer and early fall, leading into the season, that we just both felt really strongly that's why he was going to win out, because of what he can do as a 4th ball handler on the floor now, what he can do as a passer, and the fact that he's figured out how to get in the scrum, and he really fights for those rebounds. The most impressive part about the pass to Loyer for that wide open 3 cross court was he fought 2 guys off for the rebound to start with, and then he throws that pass from about an inch from the baseline.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's got some weight to him, not just size, right? So when you getting slammed into each other, trying to fight for a rebound. A lot of times somebody runs into him, they're the ones that are going to get moved, with that kind of physicality that he brings. So yes, I'm very intrigued by Jack Benner. I started the show about it. Joe just talked about it on the defensive end. I know you guys are kind of honing in on everything else he can do, but just watching him at the exhibition game at Mackey, warming up for threes, man, I know that's what they all talked about when he came out of high school. It was what he was great at, but you really see it when you're in person and you watch this dude warm up. He is one of the more pure shooters I've seen on this team. And we're talking about, especially, Purdue's known for guys like that, right? And he's got one of the more pure shots. He's a knockdown three-point shooter, and that makes me really excited for what his career can be at Purdue.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, take it away wherever you want to go next, Joe. You're muted. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, 25 cents in the cookie jar.
That's me and Braggs both have one of those already today. I was saying to myself, Oscar Cluff's probably where we should go next. Finishes 9 points, 10 boards, 5 of them on the offensive glass, 3 assists as well, a block and a steal. We kind of mentioned Kraig towards the beginning of the show, like some of the issues of Purdue was in position to rebound and just did not go grab the ball. Cluff, Jacobson are the major parts of that, but also the guards and wings can't be overlooked in their duties. But I think to me, Cluff, it was just, and I said this, I know already, but like he looked more so than the other 2 games, like he was just out there playing basketball and he wasn't thinking. Just going out there, hitting guys, being physical. I think, converted on a couple looks at the rim as well. 3 of 4 from the free throw line. I know that's incredibly small sample size, but knocked out a few free throws. It just seems like he's going to become more and more comfortable game by game. Maybe it's not a gradual increase, right? There may be a game where he struggles a bit more, and then another game he takes a big jump. But I'm without trying to jump too far ahead, I'm excited. This kind of makes me excited to see what he will be like in game like 15, 20.
Yeah. To me, I thought the most impressive play offensively from him was the drop step where he started about at the free throw line. He had he kind of faced up on his defender, gave a little move and a drop step and laid it in. You can also see that when he does corral an offensive rebound, there's very little wasted movement. He goes right back up. He goes right back up with it the majority of the time. So those are 2 things that I think stood out to me with him trying to get comfortable, with his role here.
Yeah, and just real quick, I don't want to add a whole bunch more on top of that, but my only question would be, did he look really, really comfortable today because he didn't have another postman out there with him? Right. Like that's the only question going forward. So I'm looking forward to seeing him and TKR get back on the court together and seeing what they look like. I think that's going to work out fine, but I don't know I don't know that today stamps that like he's finally looking in that flow again until we see him back out there with another big.
Yeah, not at all. I wouldn't say. Jacobson and Cluff, and we'll get to Jacobson here in a little bit. They finished with a combined 20 points and 18 rebounds, but I don't think either guy would say they had a comfortable game by any means. Like I still think there's still a long way to go for these guys to kind of be in rhythm of what they want to do out there and be in rhythm with what their role is on this offense. But to your point, yes, this isn't a great representation without TKR out there of how this is all going to work. That being said, we talked about this at the start of the show, Kraig. I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world that TKR was out tonight, so these guys could get minutes and get reps and get a lot of opportunities, whether it's in the high pick and roll with Braden. You saw in the first play of the game, the first offensive possession was a high pick and roll, and it wasn't a great pass from Braden, but it was a turnover that Oscar Cluff couldn't corral in. The first alley-oop attempt from Braden to Daniel Jacobson, that should have been an assist. and Jacobson just couldn't bring it in. And then after about the third time they tried it, Jacobson finally slammed it home. And on the broadcast, you could see him kind of give like a shake of his head, like finally. So I think for both these guys, I think it was important that, or I thought it was a silver lining that TKR had to sit tonight, because I think it gave them more opportunities to kind of get into this. And then TKR should return on Friday. And then we'll, I think try to find the rotational rhythm as they get set for Alabama next week.
And I think part of that's Braden figuring out where to put the pass. Because when Jacobson connected, he just put it up high and let him go get it, instead of trying to catch that little pocket pass that TKR is so adept at catching and continuing.
Yep.
That's all I had, Greg. No reason for a solo there. Let's move on to the next guy.
I want the world to see your beautiful face, especially before the lights get turned on you guys again. So let's keep it moving then. Let's keep going down the rundown. Joe, where do you want to go next with it? And you're muted. Let's go, birthday boy. They said in the chat that the birthday boy can't get fines, but I don't know. That's two now.
Yeah, I know, but I'll be better. It's got to be better. Game one, I gotta improve. We should probably go to the potential National Player of the Year, who had 11 assists and only 1 turnover, and the turnover came on the first possession of the game. Right, the scoring wasn't quite there. He's gonna knock down more shots. It's gonna be fine, but like, I don't have a lot to say for Braden. He's at the Zach Edey level of just like, yeah, he's an incredible passer. He is going to manipulate defenses to do whatever he wants on any given possession. If he wants to, I mean, when in that second half, when he was just trying to feed Jacobson, it was just pick and roll. Evansville's in drop coverage. Braden attacks the big, gets him attached onto him, and then just throws it up because he knows Jacobson's going to be there, continuing to get reps. Just really impressive passing ability, and I still think there's multiple more levels Braden can get to if he really wants to. Like, I still think he's, rightfully so, I still think he's leaving a little bit in the tank.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Smith is through these first 2 exhibitions in this game, it really feels like he is in full facilitator mode.
Yes.
And we've yet to see him be an aggressor as a shooter. I'm sure when we get to that big matchup against Alabama, that's going to change a little bit. And I do think he can turn that on at any given point in time. But right now, it seems like he is really locked in with, like, I got people everywhere. I'm going to spread the ball around. I mean, CJ Cox doesn't even take a shot tonight. And like, it didn't feel like, oh, wow, that's out of the ordinary. It's just he was spraying the ball around to anybody else who was open, and everybody else was knocking a shot down.
I agree with you. I think if Braden had it his way, tonight he'd have had 20 assists. And he can say he's not looking at that all-time assist record, and he probably isn't, but I think he's also aware of it too. And how many games are you going to have where you can just, all right, tonight I'm just going to get 20 assists because I can do whatever. You know what I mean? Like, this is the one game, or one of the few games they'll have early in the year where he can just go for that. And so we were talking earlier, Kraig, I think he could have ended up with at least 15 assists, if not for some miscues on some handling of basketball. But he did move to 3rd all-time in Big Ten history for assists total. So congrats to Braden. I did see somebody asking in the chat earlier, how many assists does Braden need on average? And then Blake Widmer came in and answered it. It's around 8.5 to 8.7 assists per game if they get 37 or 38 games. So I'm not saying that's a focal point or anything like that. We understand Braden's number one goal is to win a national championship. But that being said, he could have had 20 tonight. I know it felt like he was certainly trying it. Now, my only, moving this forward, my only question is for Friday, which I'm assuming will be a similar game where they're going to win handily and Braden can try to get everyone involved. Maybe I'm overstating this, but how important is it for Braden to start hunting his shot on Friday a little more to get himself in the groove for the big matchup against Alabama next week? I don't know if I want him waiting till next Thursday. I understand I'm sure he hunts his shot a lot at practice, but it's game time now. And it's great you're trying to get everybody involved. but now I want you to go into killer mode too and knock down those mid-range fadeaways, knock down those threes, and get you to your full form for, you know, a top 15 match against Bama.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be a mix. And next games we'll do it. We'll talk about it in our preview. Oakland runs this kind of weird 1-3-1 zone where shooters are just going to be open, and so it feels like it'll be another high Braden assist game. I also, side note, just put in the chat a link to Cobra Stats, who on Twitter puts out great graphics, stats, mainly Purdue focused. He has this little like website thing where you can go and, based on how many games Purdue plays and what you think Painter or Braden averages for assists per game, you can actually see the leaderboard and what he would need to average per game to break the all-time assist record. So I put that in the chat. Just wanted to shout that out. Shout out our guy Cobra Stats. I don't know. Braden still took 9 shots. It wasn't like he fully went away from shooting the ball. You'll want to see it a little bit, I think, more in Oakland, but like I said, it's going to be a weirder offensive night just based on how Oakland plays defense. All right. Since nobody else has wanted to talk on this show, I'll just keep talking. You're muted also. Braggs went backstage. We're in shambles right now. I don't really know what's going on.
I was trying to look up the Cobra Stats thing. I thought Greg was going to chime in next, and then I didn't know. He's gone.
Yep. Did you have anything on Braden? Are you concerned about, him needing to get the scoring going? Is it more of just Braden's going to be Braden in these types of games and he can turn it on whenever he needs to?
I don't have any major concerns. I would like to see him hunt just a little bit more before we get to that Alabama game, just to get in a little bit of flow, but he's doing it in practice every day too. So not too worried about it at all. Is there I don't know that we need to go through every single last player that played tonight. Is there anybody else that jumped out in terms of positives or negatives that you maybe want to highlight one way or another?
I think I'll just do high overview. CJ and Jakari, we can group them together. Right. CJ doesn't take a shot, played within the system, gets 2 assists. Jakari drills a 3 towards the end of the game. Missed a couple bunnies in transition that he's going to make. I will just say for both of them, really good defensive performance. CJ from the jump was really, really aggressive defensively. I thought he was very good getting into the ball handler. Leaf Moeller over on Evansville, listed 6'7", even if he's 6'5" or like a 6'6" type of point guard, that's a archetype that potentially can give Purdue some issues just with the size disadvantage. But I thought CJ and Jakari both were great on him. I thought Meyer looked even a little bit better defensively today. And the other thing on Meyer is some of the decision making is going to take time, right? If we think back to Braden Smith freshman year, and I'm not saying Meyer's going to have the Braden Smith career or anything, but if we think back to Braden Smith freshman year, Braden had some of those decision making turnovers as well. Meyer flashes a couple, but I also thought he was starting to look more comfortable today. A little bit more of, okay, I know when I need to get off the ball. I know when I need to be in attack mode more. I just thought he started looking a little bit more comfortable, and similar to Cluff, was just thinking less. And really at this point from Meyer, that's kind of all I'm looking for, is just game by game becoming a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and Painter talked about the fact that they really, really wanted CJ to be able to get into Moeller and disrupt things and try to disrupt him, because they were worried about him from a shooting standpoint and a facilitating standpoint. And Moeller goes 0 for 9, I think, on the day, only has 3 assists. So, obviously did a really good job of that. I thought, I'm with you. I thought Meyer looked better today, just in terms of being more comfortable. I still put, in my notes, the Omer Meyer experience, in one play, it's oh my God, that is incredible. And then the next play, it's what? Just, it's going to be that way for a couple of months, right? Until he just figures out everything, and when does he need to take risk and when does he not need to take risk, and what can he get away with against college teams in the U.S., what can he get away with against Big Ten level teams. All that's going to just take a little bit of time. So give him that time. He's going to get there.
100%. I think the other thing we should mention, I'll bring up the rotation chart for this. Obviously, the game was out of hand by this point, but we did see the Meyer Loyer Smith lineup for a handful of minutes. Need to see it against better competition before drawing any big conclusions. But my takeaway was like, I think it can work in spots, especially as Meyer starts becoming even more comfortable offensively. I think he can be good enough. Maybe it's not an every game thing, but I think in spots it's going to be able to work. So that's the only other thing I kind of had on that. The only other player I guess, did you have anything more on Jacobson? Like, needs to be able to have a little bit stronger hands, needs to just be able to convert a little bit better, but also he has 11 points and 8 rebounds, 2 blocks. A game where he can build off of things to improve, but still look good enough. Like, I don't know. Did you have anything more?
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Liam Murphy can jump off the bench and knock down a 3. I think that's kind of the other thing to add for the players that played today. So that kind of rounds out us walking through the lineup. Anything else before we get to kind of winding down on the show, play the game ball, all of that type of stuff? Anything that else you kind of want to put out there?
No, let's just hop right into play the game. What was it for you?
Oh man.
Hadn't thought about it yet.
Was not prepared for this. If you have one, go. If not, I'll come up with something.
I mean, it was Fletcher's 28-foot heat check.
Yeah.
For me, like, he was on fire tonight. He was having a night. He's never scored 30. Gets to that mark today. For a minute, it looked like he might chase Gillis's Mackey record of 9 3-pointers in a single game. So I gotta go with Fletch with that deep 3.
Yeah, I think that's probably the correct answer. I'll just to throw out another one. I don't know if it's play of the game, but more of play that stood out to me was the first lob that Jacobson was able to convert. There was 2 in a row where Jacobson didn't quite handle the pass. And that third one, Braden, I mean, he couldn't have put it much closer to the rim. And it was just like, here, like, go finish this one, please. So I don't know if that's play of the game, but more of just play that I guess stood out of Braden was just like, please just go finish this one. But Loyer's 3 is the correct answer objectively for that. Game ball. I'm trying to remember who went first last time.
I went first last time because you asked me if you were allowed to pick the same person or not, and I said yes. But I'm gonna break my rule right away after I said we could pick the same one. I'm gonna purposely pick somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be. It's gonna be Fletch. We have been Fletcher Loyer stands throughout his entire career. Has a career night, 30 points on 11 shots. Like, that is not normal. That is not normal for any scorer of any capacity to be able to do that. I know it wasn't the best competition and all that, but still, he just absolutely went off from 3. Felt like he could have missed, hit whatever he wanted. So Fletcher Loyer gets the game ball for me.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the answer, right? Just so everybody knows, that's the answer. But I'm going to throw some love here and kind of game ball 1B to Jack Benner in here, just because, first career game, finds out right before the game he's starting for an injured TKR, comes in, doesn't look phased, doesn't look scared at all, jacks up the first open 3 that he gets a chance at, misses it, then starts connecting, and everybody gets to see who Jack Benner is. 3 of 6 from 3, 4 of 7 from the field. Oh, by the way, he had 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and was consistently in the scrum, and just everything that he adds from a ball handling and passing standpoint when he's out there in terms of just making the offense flow continually. And when we get to higher levels of basketball, that's the thing you notice, that at every position, every single guy can pass, right? Everybody can handle the ball to a degree, and he just adds to that flow and that 4 spot in the minutes that he's going to get this year.
Yep, I think that's definitely the good option aside from Loyer. We'll see how, if he's able to continue that in probably fewer minutes as TKR comes back. But again, if he's the 9th guy in the Purdue's rotation, very good player to have as your 9th man. That kind of wraps it up for this show. We have a couple start comments we'll get to, and then we'll get out of here. Jeffrey Mojic says, very surprising Cox had 0 shot attempts. He is a starter and still not aggressive all the time looking for a shot. It's also just kind of, I don't know if being aggressive looking for a shot is how I would phrase it. More of just like there just weren't the opportunities because Braden and Fletch were just generating any look that they really wanted to. And so, right, CJ is 4th to 5th on the hierarchy. I'm not concerned about it, especially because of what CJ is able to do defensively. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this, Kraig?
My only thing with it is, right, like, I mean, I think a lot of it was because I think I turned to you towards the end of the first half, and I was like, he's not really even gotten a pass in scoring position, like to where you'd say he should take that shot or whatever. And again, like you said, because of what everybody else was generating, just some bad luck maybe, and the fact that the kickouts came to sides where he was on the opposite side, so he wasn't going to get that kick out, whatever. I'm not worried about it at all. He's going to get his eventually. Jakari's going to get his. Jakari had attempts. They just weren't falling today.
Yep, 100%. Scott Thompson 6282 says, "Can you explain no new intro? Is one coming, or do we not need one now?" I don't know if this is about our show. I assume it's about Purdue's starting introduction and how it's the same song. I do not know your guys' take on this.
I think he's asking about our
The
show.
start. If he's talking about our show, then that's just a production thing.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of feed. We always, read your feedback. We appreciate all your comments on YouTube and everyone that watches this show. And, I'm definitely a creature of habit in the way we started these shows. One thing I always like to integrate is as much content from the game in the stands. I mean, this is a fan in the stands show. At least that's how I've always viewed it. And so, I always kind of liked to start the shows with, showing the Mackey Arena environment, but they're long and they're loud and, we want to get to it. And so we heard the feedback over the last couple of years and felt like, hey, let's keep it short and sweet and get right into it. And so that's kind of how we're going with it. If maybe one day down the road, I'll put together a 20 or 30 second intro that's a little more produced well and sounds better and looks better. But for now, I think this is how we're going to roll with it. And I think it helps with viewership and the way people tune in. I think the faster we get to the basketball conversation, the longer people will hang out with us. So if that was your question with it, Scott, that's what it is. They do have a new song intro for Purdue at the games, right?
No, it's the same as the past 2 seasons. And my point on that is they should never change it. That it is the perfect song, in my opinion, for intros. I love the song and just kind of all that the Purdue creative team does. I think it's perfect. So if that's what it was about, in my opinion, there's no need for a change. I think we can move on probably to the next comment from there. Only a couple more. Andy Buck 2660 says, "Is there a deadline for declaring a red shirt?" There is not. It can be kind of set at any point. We did mention earlier a little bit like Painter, and this is what Kraig got from the post game media scrum, was that basically Painter told West to kind of take some time and if in a couple weeks they'll make more of a real decision and figure it out from there.
Yeah, he just wasn't ready to make a decision. And like we talked about on the last show, Joe, like he's just a really, really competitive guy. And remember when we were talking about that, I was like, I would not be surprised if, even if it doesn't look like there's a path for minutes there, that he's not going to redshirt anyway, just because he's that competitive and believes he can compete and find a way to get on the court. So sounds like to me, maybe that's where he's at a little bit of like, I think I can get there, but don't really know. So take a little bit of time and figure it out. But technically a red shirt isn't declared until the end of the season. There is no declaration throughout the season. It's just the submission of a form to the NCAA proving that as a freshman, you did not play any minutes and are taking that year.
Right. So I guess the way you explain that at the end makes sense, is the declaration because you didn't play any minutes and you submit that so you can get your 4 years of eligibility. But before you said that, I was about to say this makes absolutely no sense why it isn't declared before the season starts. So, that helps with that clarity there. We were talking about it earlier, me and Joe, how it as much as he will have very, very limited minutes, it is somewhat of a tricky decision for Antoine West being that there is a chance this team could play in a Final Four in a national championship, and you never know. We've seen how these seasons shake out, and by the end of the year, somebody can find their way to, getting a few minutes, on a team that's in the national spotlight. And I think that might be part of, and Joe brought this up, that might be part of the calculation that Antoine's thinking about right now.
Yep. Yeah. So that's I think that's fair, and we'll find that out in the coming weeks. Don't expect him to play, obviously, and if he does play, that means he burned the red shirt. So yeah, last star comment. Rickus Mortis says Joe's age over under Loyer's total points tonight. Do I look 30? Because I'm not. I'm 26 now. But I'm hoping I don't look over 30. So the under would hit for Loyer's total points. But yeah, do appreciate the couple birthday shout outs from Jason Depew with the 199 super chat, TD Ransfer as well. Appreciate all this.
Final thing before we go, and Andrew Short brings this up here in the chat saying Braden starting his new pod this week called Running Point. Got to add it to the playlist with Boilers in the Stands and Sleepers to get me through the week between games. This certainly is, to me, a very surprising thing. Like Braden Smith to me is like the last person I feel like that likes to do any kind of interviews and media. I would have never pegged him to be a guy that wanted to have a weekly podcast. How do you what are you guys thinking about this? I mean, I'm excited to listen. I listen to Matt Painter's show every Monday to get insight about the team. Now we get to hear from the point guard every week and hear his thoughts, but I'm just very surprised he was willing to do this, and I'm certainly curious how he's going to do it and who he talks to and how that's going to go throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely with you, surprised. Good for Braden if that's something that he wants to do. Like, I'm not one of those people that has an issue like him spending an hour of his free time a week or whatever it is, doing a podcast. I don't think that affects the on-court play whatsoever. But yeah, definitely was just surprised. Shout out Sleepers for being able to get this set up. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know. I don't got much more on that.
Yeah, I'm just really interested to see the format because the way it was announced, it kind of seemed to be more to me like he was going to be interviewing, like he was going to be the host with other elite point guards on or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. And shout out to the Sleepers guys for bringing that in. They're friends of the program. And the Sleepers guys, I don't know how much you've been following this, Kraig, but like him and them and Rafe, Raphael, they're fighting on the TL and Brian Newbert's poking at them a little bit too. So I don't know what's going on with the Sleepers guys right now, but they're getting in a bunch of dust ups with some of the Purdue faithful.
I've got no comments. I am Switzerland, Greg. I am Switzerland. I am a neutral party.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about doing the Seinfeld gif where he's like, boys. They'll figure it out. The Greg and Carter are great. And they just enjoy college basketball. They got a lot of passion for the game and they're fun guys, friends of the program. So we love them. And shout out to their new addition with Braden Smith joining their team. We'll certainly give them all the support on our end. So that's it. That was the only question I had. Other than that, what else you guys got? I'm sure you want to go home before the lights go out.
Would like to go home. Purdue plays Oakland on Friday. That is a 7:00 Eastern time tip. It will be the first game of the season on Peacock. I'm sure everybody will be so thrilled about that. Kraig and I will have a preview out either tomorrow or Thursday. If you turn on bell notifications, you'll get notified as soon as that goes live. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to hit the like button on the way out, and we will have that. How did I do, Bryce? Was that good hosting?
Yeah, that was great. Sorry I had to leave. I didn't upload the audio for our Bears show today. We did the trade deadline show at 3:00, and I uploaded the audio wrong to our platforms, and so I got yelled at, and that's why I had to leave a little bit ago and
wow,
re-upload the audio. So that
I don't even know if you saw the message I sent in the private chat right before you left, because I was like, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on the rest of the guys. Just kick it to Joe and let him kind of run through the rest real quick. And then like you jumped off 30 seconds later, and I was like, oh God, I ticked Greg off, telling him to move
No.
the show along.
No, I was panicking as I received a text from my coworker that I am screwing up at work. So that had never happened to me before, and Joe never makes those mistakes when he uploads the audio, but I certainly did. So that wraps things up here for today. Great work at the stadium, fellas. I think Kraig might not be at the game on Friday, but me and Joe will be at the game. So, as the season goes, we do live post-game shows following every single game. Road games, we're able to go live quicker, obviously, because we're all at our homes and in our stations. But for home games, you got to give us a few minutes to let the crowds clear and let them turn the music off. And then we're able to go live that way for post-game shows for all home games at Mackey. So stay tuned for all that. These guys will have a preview show for the upcoming game here on Friday. And we'll just keep this ball rolling here on Boilers in the Stands as Purdue moves to 1-0 on the regular season as they enter the season as the number one team in the country for the first time ever in their program. It's going to be a special year, and we appreciate all of you for your support. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's all enjoy this ride together. And then without further ado, we'll finish this off by singing Happy Birthday to Joe. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joseph. Happy birthday to you. We'll see y'all later. Boiler up.